Well, welcome everybody. I'm really glad that you can join us today. My name is Dr. Sandra Grossman. I'm here with my colleague, Connie Starr. We're part of the Pet Loss Partners team, and we'll be guiding you through the webinar today. A couple of things to keep in mind during the webinar. We are going to have a Q&A after the last slide. So we're going to ask you to keep your questions or comments until then, although that's not really true. If you have anything to say, any comments, any questions, and you want to put them in the chat box before the end, like if something comes up, please feel free to do that, and then we'll get to them once we get to the question and answer section. Also, we're going to ask you, in order to keep the best connection and to keep out interruptions, we are going to ask you to keep yourself on mute until that section. Okay? So, we're going to be talking about dealing with guilt after a loss. And Connie and I have been doing this work for a lot of years. We're also pet parents and have gone through our own losses. And the reason we wanted to do this particular topic is that it probably is the most common emotion next to grief that pet parents go through. And so we're hoping to talk to you a little bit about why it's such a difficult topic and different strategies for working through it. Okay. So like I said, so this is myself. My name is Sandra Grossman, and I'm with Connie Starr. We're just going to take a minute to kind of explain a little bit who we are and how we got here. So, as I said, I've been doing this work. This is my 16th year of being a pet loss specialist. I actually spent a couple of years in human bereavement before that. Um, it really, though, was losing my beloved boy. That's that beautiful chocolate point Siamese in the left-hand corner. His name was Mazel Tov, and he got me through so much of life. He was my best friend, my furry soulmate, my fur kid, and probably one of the greatest teachers of it I've ever had. And absolutely, when I lost him, I was completely devastated. It was 2007. There wasn't a lot of support in LA where I lived. Um, and unfortunately, Maz had cancer at the end. And I went through a lot of treatments, and there were those questions: how much should I do? Did I do too much? Didn't I do enough? All those things led to horrible guilt, on top of the fact that he went through horrible seizures at the end of his life on the way to the hospital. So all of that threw me into, along with the grief, that horrible guilt I had to deal with. And you see Callie, that's me and Callie on the right hand side, and I lost her. I was a pet loss specialist, and unfortunately with Callie, her last day, it happened very quickly, and it was July 4th weekend, and I was trying to get an in-home euthanasia vet. I now wish I almost had gone to a hospital. So she had a couple of really tough few hours. And that's the point. You know, it's almost like we can't get around it, and it doesn't matter how much experience you have with this grief. The guilt is really, really difficult. And we're hoping, like I said, to be able to provide you some insight and support today. Today, we have Pet Loss Partners, so we offer online chat rooms. I run a couple of virtual pet loss support groups. I do an in-person support group here in New Jersey, and then I do individual sessions as well. Probably the beautiful thing about going through this experience is the people I meet and the relationships and meeting the team at Pet Loss Partners and creating the team has meant so much to me. I'm here today with Connie Starr. She's not only a colleague, but a friend, and we always support each other as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Connie and let her share a little bit about her journey with all of this.
Okay. Well, thanks for not making me cry this time. As Sandy said, we are pet parents too, and we've experienced guilt in spades. So you've come to a good place. It's good to see you all here today, although I'm sorry why you have to be here. I say this to my pet loss support group guests every time. But I'm glad that you're here. This picture, this was my Ruby. She was a Siberian Husky, and I lost her at 4.5 to lymphoma. Um, just 3 weeks before she died, she had gone on a 10-mile run with me. So let me tell you, the guilt crushed me. Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I see that she was sick? And we'll talk about that. You're not supposed to see it. They hide it from us. Um, but she led me to this work. I went back to school. I got a master's in counseling psychology. As my master's project, I founded the Pet Loss Support Group, sponsored by the Seattle Animal Shelter. We've been meeting weekly since 2006, so there is a real need for this work. And people find community in other people who are grieving, sadly. But I don't know if it's misery loves company or what it is about being in a room with people who are sharing your pain. Um, we Sandy and I met at Association for Pet Loss and Bereavement. We were both chat hosts there. When I found out she was doing her own thing, I jumped ship and joined her. And it's been a really good experience helping people navigate through the worst time in a pet parent's life. And just know that you're not alone. You don't ever have to go through your journey alone. There are people that care and people that help. And um, we all need that help. Even Sandy and me. It's like we say, we know how to grieve. I mean, you're supposed to do this and this and this, but I tell you, when you're going through it yourself, it all goes out the window.
Yeah.
So um, we're really glad to see all of you here, and we hope this helps.
Thanks, Connie. So let's go ahead and get started. And here's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. You can't really talk about guilt without talking at least a little bit about grief and what it's like and some norms of that. So we'll talk about that. Then we're going to talk about guilt and why it just gets to us so much and why we all struggle with it so much. But more importantly, we're going to provide you with some strategies to help you work through it. Because by working through it, that's how you remember the love and the relationship you had. And that's why they're in our lives, isn't it? So let's go ahead and get started with that. Um, so we'll start out talking about, like I said, talking about grief itself. And here's the thing. So many of my clients, and I'm sure Connie, yours too, they have this image of grief because I'm sure many of you have heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who did a lot of good work in the bereavement field. But even on her deathbed, she talked about one of the things she regrets is doing what you probably have heard of is these stages of grief. Because we know now that, first of all, she wrote them for people who were dying, not people who had lost a pet or a person. But we know there are no stages. Grief is so fluid and so different for everyone. And I mean, Here's a good representation, right? This is what grief looks like. You've got grief in the middle, and you've got the sadness and the anger and the guilt and the hope and the love and the hopelessness and all these emotions. And guilt is part of it. And we go back and forth between feeling all those things. And that's what makes it so difficult, too. This grief is exhausting. It's hard. It's sad. It's tiring. But there's nothing, nobody, and again, we've been doing this for years and years. Connie, I don't think I've ever in all these years met two people, even two people who have lost the same pet, who have gone through it the same way. Am I right? So just to let you know, if you feel like everything is crumpling up and falling up around you, it is. That's what grief is. We also very often go through what we consider Jeter. I knew it. I'm sorry. I have a cat with anxiety, and almost every time I have to do a webinar, he starts up. Jeter, Jeter. I apologize. So we go through this grief fog. And what is the grief fog? And I'm sure all of you have felt it. The grief fog is that feeling like nothing, you can't even focus. You're not sleeping okay. You're not eating okay. You can't even get to work. You're not even communicating properly. That's what the grief fog is. It can last a day. It can last, usually not a day, it usually lasts at least a month or so. But it can go on for months and months. And this is truly what grief is.
And don't make any big decisions when you're in the grief fog because
Yeah.
your brain isn't working correctly.
And again, so the big part of grief that we all go through is this guilt. And the thing to remember, like you saw on that other side, it really is part of this grief journey. So many of us experience it. And I think when you can realize that it is a normal part of the grief, it is a part of working our way through this. But why are some of the reasons? Why does it get to us? Why does it affect us? Why does it make this grief so much harder? Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. And one of the basic things is that, right, pets are perennial toddlers. And I don't know how many of you have human children, but y'all know that when you have a human child, right, in the beginning, they really need you. And then they start to Jeter. Oh, jeez. Connie, can you hold on a second? Okay, okay, okay. Come on. I truly apologize. I knew that was going to happen.
He's such a stinker.
Right? He's all nice and calm before the webinar starts, and the minute I have to work, there he goes. Um, but so with human children, they really need us in the beginning, and then they kind of grow up, and sometimes they almost don't like you very much as teenagers, and hopefully they begin to like you as they get older. But it's very different with pets. With pets, they need you as much that first day as they do the last day. And
And they never think you're stupid.
that's the
Like
good part of
teenagers.
that is the good part of it, Connie. Yes. But here's what happens. We feel that. We feel that responsibility, and we know, oh my God, we've got to take care of them. We have to make their lives perfect. And the love is so perfect we want to. So what happens then? We become like Superman or Superwoman, right? Like we're supposed to know it all. We're supposed to be able to fix everything, to make sure everything's okay. But the problem is this. it's hard to be human. We are human and we don't know everything and we can't know everything. We can't control everything. We can't control age. We can't control cancer or kidney disease. We have, as you see in the picture, you have kids, you have spouses or partners, you've got work, and your pets that need you. And sometimes as humans, guess what? We can make mistakes. Sometimes we can leave a gate open or a window open. Sometimes we could forget to give medicine. We're human, but we don't want to be human, not with these babies because they love us so much. But we are. The thing to remember though is it doesn't take away the love that we have for them or the relationship. They know that. We struggle with it, but they know that. Another thing is, growing up, what do we learn? We learn there's a cause and effect of everything, right? So if something happens, if something bad happens, then we must be the cause of it. We don't give ourselves credit for being the cause of giving them a good life, right? But if something happens, if they get sick, if there's an accident, then it's all on us. We're the failures. That's what makes all of this so very hard too. We also are pretty good ruminators, right? What do? We start to think about the what ifs. What if I had taken him in sooner? Connie said her dog was running around on a sled race a few weeks before she was diagnosed with cancer. But I'm sure, Connie, you felt like, how could I not have seen something? And Connie, I think you said it too, right? A lot of times our pets, and it's their natural instinct, they are amazing at hiding their illnesses. They don't want to show us their illnesses because when they were in the wild, they would need to keep them quiet so that they didn't get attacked or they didn't have their herd attacked. So they've got that in them. But what do? We start questioning everything. What if I had seen this? What if I had done this? If only I had done this. And the thing is, a lot of us, as we have these pets, we create what would it be like? What is their ending going to be like? And it's like, oh, they're going to be 100 years old, right? Or 20 years old, and they're just going to be laying there with us and their eyes will close. And that almost never happens. Diseases happen, but it's not what we want. And so what happens is this script that we had written, that it was going to be this beautiful life and everything was going to be perfect, that, as you see, it gets ripped to shreds. And we have to write this new script. We don't want what happened. And so it really can be very difficult because we're constantly second guessing. We're constantly questioning ourselves. And the guilt just gets worse and worse, and it goes on. It's like this endless cycle. So, how do we begin to break this? How can we begin to find ways so that we can let go of some of that guilt, so that we can remember the really beautiful times and beautiful life? And listen, here's another thing, right? It's never enough time. We could have them for 25 years, we can have them for 2 years. It's never enough time with them. But generally, we do have a beautiful life with them for whatever time we have. And our job is to be able to remember that. So we want to share with you some strategies to help you be able to do that. And the first one is just acknowledging and just saying, I know I'm going to feel this guilt. I mean, Connie and I were talking about it. You just heard that's my senior cat, Jeter. He's going to be 18 in a few weeks. And listen, I've been through this road many times before with different pets. Do you think it's going to help me any when I lose him? No, it's not. You know, um, I know it's going to break my heart, and I know no matter, even if knowing all I do, I'm going to feel guilty for something. And so I think when we're able to remember that, when we're able to say, yeah, I'm going through it because it's just a normal part of grief, it does make it a little bit easier. So here's the thing, what about if we were going to rewrite how we looked at guilt? We know that guilt really is grief's weight, and that we have unending questions during the guilt, and that there is, in a part, some inner darkness to it. But what if we can change the second part of it, where we learn to release some of that guilt and the pain and the blame and the regret, and we move more toward healing? What if we can do that? Then we can make this journey just a little bit easier to go through. So how do we start to do that? We're going to give you a few ideas that we hope you'll find helpful. And the first one is, and you may have seen this and might have read about it, but it really does work, is doing some writing. And the writing can be doing a journal where you actually have conversations with your pet. You let them know how you feel. You may need to write a letter of apology to them. Let them know that you're sorry. It's okay. It's okay to feel sorry, but it's not okay to dwell in it. You may also want to think about not only what you want to say to your pet, but what your pet would want to say to you. If you apologize to them, what do you think they would say back to you? And if you really hate writing, and I know some of you do, then maybe you don't have to write. Maybe you can actually sit and maybe put a pillow in front of you and talk to your pet that way, or a picture. But find a way to get those emotions out. Another thing is, and listen, it does happen, accidents happen. I will share a story with you of a client I had that lived in the LA area and lived in a kind of, like a very trendy town, and was taking her puppy on a walk one day and passed a restaurant and decided, hey, I'm going to order dinner for me and my husband. So she walked in, and this was many years ago, and the man said, I'm sorry, can't bring the dog in here. She went outside, and there was a pole next to a bench, and she wrapped the leash around the pole, and it was a busy street. Went in to order the dinner, and you could guess what happened. Well, the guilt she felt was beyond horrible in going through this. Um, and when we started to work through the grief and through this guilt, she felt like she needed to make a difference. So she actually contacted the town and asked them if she could put a plaque on the bench in her dog's honor. But more than that, she wrote an article for a dog magazine, kind of talking about how you have to be mindful and not to do things like that. And in that way, she felt like she was honoring her dog's name was Muffy. And it really helped her begin to release some of this grief. And maybe it's like in this picture, sharing about what happened. Maybe you belong to a cat club and you want to share what happened in the cat club. Maybe you might want to see about there's all these podcasts, all these animal podcasts, and you want to share a story about what you went through and what you learned. Maybe you want to write to a magazine, again, a dog, a cat magazine, about what happened. And maybe you want to share about it that way. But by doing this, it just begins to take away some of the strength of that that guilt that just starts to eat us up if we don't deal with it. There's also something, and I don't know if any of you may have heard of this, if any of you have been in therapy or have people who work in the mental health field, but there's something called cognitive reframing. And a piece of that is what we call the STOP method. And we recommend that for our clients who really get stuck on a certain image or something that happened and just can't let go of it. Like for me, when I was bringing Maz was sick at the end and I got home at night and he started having seizures. So I had to have my neighbor drive me and we had to drive a half an hour at 11:30 at night to this emergency hospital with Maz having seizures on my lap the whole way there. And that's all I could think about. For weeks, it was almost like I couldn't even remember what he looked like. I just remembered that last images. This is what can help when you have something like that. So how do you do the STOP method? One of the first things you want to do is when you start thinking about an image, like for me, it was the image of driving, holding Maz while he was having those seizures. Start thinking about when do they occur? Is it when you first get up? Is it when you're really stressed? Is it when you're really tired? And maybe at multiple times during the day. The reason you want to start identifying those times is because when you identify when it happens, then you can start to say, well, I need to try to take care of myself, or I need to be mindful because this is what can happen when I'm feeling this way. The second part of it is, though, the moment you start remembering that image or having that feeling, you want to say, if you're by yourself, you just want to say, stop, stop. And you literally want to say it out loud. Obviously, if you're at work or if you're with other people, you're not going to, be able to say it out loud, but you say it internally. And the minute you say it, you come up with some mantra or some image. It may be a different image. Like for me, I remembered me and Maz watching TV and how peaceful it was when he used to sit on my lap. I also came up with this mantra that I used, and I would say, stop, that's not Maz's life. That's not who Maz was. Now, I have to tell you, it's not going to work the first time you do this. It's not going to work the 20th time you do this. Just like, I think it takes 4 weeks to begin to break a habit, right? You need to make it your new habit. So expect that it's going to take a while before this starts kicking in. So, like I said, for me, I would say something like Maz's life was about love, where I had these different mantras. And pretty soon I kind of trained myself so that I was able to let go of that image. I was able to, the minute it happened, I was able to go, nope, Maz's life is not about that. Maz's life was about the love we share. And it really does help. I know when you're in the midst of it, you're like, yeah, I don't know, right? I just ask you to try it. Give it 2, 3 weeks. I will tell you too that for me it was really difficult. And so I wound up putting a rubber band around my wrist. And every time I started going to that image, I would just gently snap the rubber band, almost like that reminder, stop it. So you may want to give that a try. I want you to think about something too, and there's something called the friend exercise. And with the friend exercise, I want you to think about the way our pets view us, right? They are our best friends, and we really are their best friends. To them, we're their whole world. We're perfect in their eyes. Again, that's part of the reason we miss them so much. We love them so much. So think about if you had this friend who you really adored. Think about your best friend. And your best friend went through the same experience you did and was having the same thoughts of guilt and was struggling with the same issues of guilt. What would you say to your friend? If your friend was really blaming themselves and was saying things like, I should have never even gotten a pet, I'm a horrible pet mom. What would you want to say to your friend? Because here's the thing. It really is about being best friends to ourselves. So those things that you say to your friend, say them to yourself because you have to be your own best friend. That's what your pets would want for you. Your pets would want you to have somebody to be there when they couldn't. And you deserve that. So think about being your own best friend. What would you say to yourself when you start saying, how could I have let that happen? Maybe your answer to your friend is, it was a mistake. You were busy. You got distracted. Things happen. They always say that when we're grieving, one of the kindest things and things that really help is creativity. So you may want to think of how to memorialize your pet. And a lot of our clients, right, Connie, do memorial services, whether it's with one person or a family or friends. And here's the beautiful thing about the memorial services. There's no way you have to do them. I mean, again, you can do them just by yourself. You can do them with a group. You can do them online. You can do them in person. I often share with my group, and this is, I've never seen, and that's why I say we always see different things and learn different things. The most, and I might have shared this with you. Oh, geez. I, I think I have a gremlin in this house. Um, I had a client who put together a celebration of life. and it was 6 months after her dog died. And it was a couple, and they had no children. They had two dogs. And when you went into their backyard for this memorial, they had these huge portraits on the fence. They had a rainbow bridge made out of all different colored balloons. They had magnets that they gave to everybody with their dogs on them. They had Rainbow Bridge cupcakes. And they actually had invited me to speak a little bit. Now that's extreme, right? Not everybody has to do that. But why not do something just special for you or your friends, whether it's in person or virtual? The other thing is, and I've had clients, because again, I do a couple of groups virtually, that have sent me pictures similar to what you're looking for, like at shadow boxes where they take a picture or cremins or a toy or a collar and they make this beautiful way of memorializing their pet. What a beautiful thing to do. So that's something else you may want to think about doing. And then lastly, and obviously this means a lot to Connie and I, right? Is getting the support that you deserve. You know, there are chat rooms, there are support groups, there you can do individual sessions, there are books out there. Um, I always tell clients to be really careful about the books you read and be sure that you're looking at something that's been done by somebody with a little bit of experience rather than just somebody who lost their pet. But support group, especially with guilt. The really good thing about support groups is that you're in this room among either virtually or in person with people who get it because they've been through it. They understand. Or you may not feel comfortable in a support group. Maybe you would be more comfortable just talking. And here's the good thing, if you don't have a therapist, you don't need a therapist. There are people like Connie and I who specialize just in pet loss support. The main point is that you don't have to go through this alone. Pet Loss Partners does offer, again, you have this information. And just to let you know, by Friday, I would say probably even sooner, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to be sending out a recording of this webinar. We're going to be sending you out some offers for support and some resources as well. But here we have our support groups, our chat rooms, if you're interested in an individual session, if you're interested in attending future webinars that we do. Again, you don't have to go through this alone. And we really encourage you to remember the truth about the life that you lived with your pet. Number one is that pets can't ruminate. Their brains can't do what's called complex emotions, where they feel blame or regret. They feel love, they feel joy, they feel fear, but they don't do all this. They don't have, I always see the death baggage that we do, where we think about where are we going to go when we die? Who are we going to leave behind? Is it going to hurt? They don't. They really just live in the now. I have a client who always shares this, and I love it. If you were to ask your dog or your cat or your bunny or whoever you've lost, what time is it? How would they answer you? They're going to answer you, it's now. That's what matters to them. Another thing is that your pet's life is worth way more than that last difficult day or week or month. If you think about it, right, here's your pet's life. This is when they're born. This is when they die. This is their life. What happens though when we go through this grief, when we go through this guilt? This is what we focus on, right? That last piece of it. Them getting sick, them getting older, them having to be rushed to a hospital. We focus on this. But the problem with focusing on this is we forget all about this and we lose it. And this is their whole life. Focus on this. And always remember that you and your pet love each other. You loved each other from the minute you met them until the minute you had to say so long. And love never dies. Love is eternal. Love goes on forever. So here is my contact info. That's our website. Pet Loss Partners is on Facebook. It is on Instagram. We encourage you to join us there too. And if you're interested in any of the support, like I said, we'll be sending you information. But please feel free to contact us. Okay? So we're going to open it up now to any questions or comments. And Connie, I don't know if anything was in the chat room at all. It doesn't look like there was, but
No, there's nothing yet. So while we're
okay.
waiting,
Huh?
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to offer up some other resources. If you haven't heard about them, Sandy and I both use Dr. Alan Wolfelt's companioning model in our support groups and in our individual counseling, and he's written some really good books to help folks who are um, going through the grief of losing a beloved pet, and one of them is when your pet dies, um, and it's got really good text. He talks about guilt and regret. They all do because we all feel it. And there's a section in here to talk about your pet. He also has a little, and these are little books. They don't take very long. And this is the guilt of grief, and this is all about guilt and ways
Now,
to.
now
Yeah,
that doesn't, just to let you know, most of the work that Dr. Wolfelt does talks about humans and
yeah. Yeah. This is geared mostly towards humans. His pet loss book is towards pets. Um, and then there's also my pet remembrance journal, and there's an entire section in here to write about um, um, your guilt, like special things I said or did or wish I had. Um, um, if I could rewrite the last days of your life, this is how it would be. Don't we all wish we could do that? And
yeah.
like Sandy said, don't we wish that they just died peacefully in their bed, and or they, well, what we want is for them to never die. But if we could have that, wouldn't we all wish that? We hardly ever get that. We hardly ever get that. And so it's like Sandy said, it's really helpful to write out all of these feelings, get them out on paper, and and then look at what you wrote and take in what you wrote, and then find a way to be your own best friend and forgive yourself for whatever you did or did not do.
Yeah, and I will say too, another really good journaling book is, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called How to Roar by Robin Jean Brown. It's similar to that. It also has different sections that take you through different parts. Um,
What's the name of it again, Connie? What was the name of that book again?
This is my pet remembrance journal.
Okay, perfect.
Let me I'll find it and I'll put the link in the chat. I'll
Okay.
put the for all of them in the chat. Yeah, and there's places where you can put pictures, really writing about all, their entire life. Like Sandy said, don't, we focus on those last few moments. And this allows you to write about their the first time I saw you, what did I feel? We all remember the first time we saw our pet, right? That allows us to get out of that grief, guilt groove and look at their entire life and how much that they gave us and how much we gave them.
Yeah, and Connie mentioned another part of it, and I kind of talked about this when I was talking about being your own best friend is the forgiveness, right? Being able to say at that moment, even though it didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it, I was doing the best I could with the information that I had. Okay. Now we had a couple of questions that were sent in too, but I see Stephanie, you have your hand up.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you for having this.
Sure.
And I'm following and I'm understanding and I'm trying your suggestions of I'm gonna cry. But
That's
Okay,
okay.
you can cry.
I know it's okay. It's a safe space. Thank you. But m my personal, what did I do? My guilt, my participation or lack of, but I'm having a really hard time because the reason was through the fault of the veterinarian,
Mm.
the regular day practice veterinarian. And then after that, we went to a specialist and we were treated very poorly. So that was kind of like a traumatic aspect afterwards. So I'm having a hard time dealing with, I don't know if it would be like trying to work on forgiveness, but like that's not really something I can forgive. So I don't know how to move forward with that.
And Connie, do you want to address it first and then I'll add a couple of thoughts, or you want me to go
Yeah.
first?
Yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We have spoken to so many people who um, unfortunately have had your same experience. And I'll just say this is that veterinarians and their staff, they are human as well. Um, Now that's no excuse for being treated poorly, but they do make mistakes as well. And so that's where um, uh, and we could have a whole another webinar on anger, guilt's companion. And so we can feel incredibly angry at how our pet was treated and how we were treated and the outcome. And so this is where we recommend, again, writing. You can write a letter to the veterinarian. You don't have to send it. You can have a little ceremony where you take it out in the backyard and burn it and let that anger go because anger like guilt will.
Connie, are you there with us? Did you freeze up, Connie? Is everybody else still here with us?
You're kind of frozen, Sandy. Now you're moving.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. It's in my name, Steve. Okay. Okay.
Oh, isn't technology wonderful until it isn't? Yeah.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure I have gremlins, but
Could be. Yeah, and so guilt and anger can go hand in hand. Um and so, if there is something that you'd like an explanation from the veterinarian, we always recommend making an appointment and going and talking to them. But that anger, like guilt, needs to be released. And I'm just so sorry that that happened.
Thank you. It's
yeah. And Stephanie, I'm just gonna add something too. And like Connie said, there's no excuse for being treated poorly. But Connie and I, and others in the pet loss team work very closely with those in the veterinary field. And we are told time after time after time that part of the most difficult part of being in the veterinary field, and I'll share with it what a friend of mine who's a vet says, is like it's almost like being in the neonatal ward of a hospital or dealing with newborns, right? Because our pets can't talk to us. And so they do their best sometimes. But when your patient can't tell you what hurts, sometimes you may not be able to see it, just like we didn't, right? And I think in terms of forgiveness, if you can't forgive the vet right now, what about forgiving yourself for doing the best you could? Which is what you did.
Yeah, it's the hard part is that I've also worked in the veterinary industry for 25 years, so I know like what goes on in the back and stuff, but I just can't come to terms with the fact of being given the wrong medicine and stuff, so I have that added playing in my mind of knowing how things work and how could that have happened and blah blah blah. So it's at this point it's also interfering with me wanting to adopt another dog because I'm so afraid of the veterinary industry now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of adopting again, and this is just, we could probably do a whole nother webinar on this, right? We really recommend, like right now, it's not even a time for you to think about adopting.
No,
Right now,
it's been about a year and a half, so it's been a while and I'm still raw.
but you've never had a chance to work through the grief. So it's almost like, and Connie, am I right? We have a lot of people whose losses are 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half. But when you don't have that chance to begin to work through the grief and the guilt and the pain and the anger and the sadness, it's still right there. There's this silly expression we're taught, which is time heals. Time doesn't heal. Time's just another day. It's what you do with the time. And so your loss is just like brand new because you've never had a chance to work through it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Sure.
Yeah, being patient with ourselves is so hard. We can just find limitless wells of patience for everyone else except for ourselves. And we just expect us to just boom, 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 I should be over this, and and we don't. Grief and guilt and this kind of pain doesn't work that way. We really have to just live it and let it run its course. And like Sandy said, seek support, surround yourself with those who understand. We'll all get the, well, it was just a dog, or why are you still crying, or, and all of this. And we know it's never just a dog and it's never just a cat. It was our babies.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know there's a few people with their hands up.
Yeah, Sandy, I wanted to tell you that it says chat is disabled, and I don't know how that happened. So there's nothing in
Oh,
chat. But
wow.
if y'all just want to raise your hands and we'll just get to you one on one. I don't know how that happened. At least it says that for me. I don't know if that says that for everybody else.
I just tried to open it up again. I don't know if, but Karen, do you want to share?
Hi, Sandy. Hi. I forgot the other lady's name. I forget so easily, but thank you guys for hosting this. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, Stephanie, oh my God, girl, thank you so much for sharing, a piece of your story. And I really was feeling for you. I had a similar situation where took my dog out to go to the bathroom. He seemed to have something going on with him that day. Usually I kind of know if it's pain because he'll start to tremble, and that's usually an indication of pain. And I had given him some pain medication, and it still didn't seem to work. So I took him outside to go to the bathroom, and he did a little something. And when I went to pick him up, I have a stroller for him because he had like a little neck injury, and the doctor does not want him doing too much. So I picked him up to put him in his stroller, and he started to scream and blah, 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 and I thought he was in pain or something. I'm like, oh my God, because he had leaped out of a planter a couple of days before that. Now, I have to tell you now, my dog Solomon was 16 years old, almost 17, in excellent condition. He grew up hiking with me in California, so we were outside all the time. Now we're living on the East Coast, and the winters are cold and it's snowy, and so we don't really have the same lifestyle that we had before. But anyway, getting to that day, I thought maybe his back was bothering him. So I took him back home. I called his vet, and they couldn't get him in that day. And so they said, well, just take him to the emergency, which is like 40 minutes across town. And I called an Uber to take us, and we probably got about 10, 15 minutes away from my house because my dog was just having problems, barking, blah, blah, blah. It was a lot of chaos going on in the car. And he's about 14 pounds. So, he's a cute little thing. And so, anyway, it was a lot going on with the Uber driver. He was worried about the dog going to bed, So I conceded to go to a vet that was closer to where we were because I didn't know what else to do. So I took him to a vet that I didn't really know. And he examined him. He thought maybe his back, so he gave him a pain medication shot and a steroid shot. And so then we left there, getting into another Uber, which strangely, like, he went to the bathroom like on himself, which he would never do. Ever, ever, ever. But this particular day, because he had the medication. So anyway, it didn't make a mess. I was able to clean it up. And anyway, we get home. And I took him upstairs immediately. I laid him on the floor right next to my bed. And he was mumbling to me, like almost saying, like looking at me like, Mama, whatever he was trying to say. And so I called the doctor and I said, he's still kind of alert and awake. Is he supposed to be, awake? Because they gave him that shot. And I said, I do have trazodone. Should I give him some of that too? And he said, yeah, you can give him a little bit of that. So I went down, gave him the medication, and everything settled down for the because it was just a stressful day. I was stressed out, worrying about him. So I, did a couple things before bed. I went to bed that night. He was quiet. I'm like, great. So then the next morning I got up. He typically sleeps in, so that's not anything new. So I said, let me go out and do a couple of errands. I came back and he was still laying down, and I called his regular doctor and I'm like, should he still be sleeping? She said, did he get up and go to the bathroom or drink water? I'm like, no. She says, go check to see if he's breathing. I'm like, what? Check to see if he's breathing. I went into my bedroom and I reached out to touch my baby, and he was cold as ice and, hard. And I was just in disbelief. Still, even to this day, it's like, wow, that happened. Anyway, so, my dog had passed away, and for the looks of things and the feel of things, he probably passed away not long after I gave him that last medication. And so, there's guilt around that, big time guilt. About a year ago, this doctor just convinced me to put him in the hospital for 2 days to get an MRI. My dog is 16, and I wasn't thinking in my right mind. I'm just worried about the dog. But I feel bad. He was locked up for 2 days. For what? I mean, even if they found something wrong, what was I going to do about it? The only thing I ended up was with a $5,500 bill for that, and my dog being stressed out. Anyway, I feel a lot of guilt around this last year of his life because I wanted the last year to be beautiful for us to get outside and, do some of the things that we had done before, hiking, walking, maybe not everything, but, I this is a dog that I spent an enormous amount of money and time taking care of my baby. And for him to die in that way, and for me to like not even know he was dead, laying there in the room with me, sometimes just gets to me, you know.
And you know what, Karen, kind of like we shared about, and I know you've been to a group. Um, the part that always sticks out to me is everything you did do, right? And that's what I'm saying. We
Yeah.
focus on this part of it, right?
But I had said that to you once before because I had, because I was focusing on that one day, that moment, and particularly that whole day, just replaying it, just exactly like you said. And I remember thinking, wow, what a dishonor it is to my baby to only think about
Yeah,
this
Yeah.
part of his life, and when his life was really like out here. 16 years, we had a lot of damn fun, a lot of love, a lot of love. And that was an epiphany, definitely, but at the same time, I still feel a level of guilt that, and because he looked to me, of course, to solve every problem. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well,
Go
we're
ahead.
great ruminators. Gosh, we could get paid for ruminating.
Yeah,
Holy cow,
man.
millionaires. We'd never have to go to work again. I mean,
I
yeah, and it's just that hamster wheel, just over and over and over again. And that's when Sandy was talking about, stop, and also cognitive reframing, where, oh, I failed my dog. And then like you said, no, I gave my 16 years is amazing. I did everything for my dog for this amount of time and this one amount of time, it- you know, I couldn't save his life. I, and if we could save our dogs, well, I'd have 100 dogs. But if we could save their lives, um, but we can't. We can't. And it's just that, and like, you know, Sandy ties this breaking the power of guilt, because guilt has such power over us. And really, how dare it? How dare it have that much power over us? And what is that doing to the memory of our pets that we loved so much and they loved so much, and we're letting that guilt take over those loving, wonderful memories. Your little guy must have made you laugh every single day,
Every
every,
day.
every single day. And that's what they give us. And we let guilt
Mhm.
take over. And how dare it?
yeah.
And so that's when it's we need to break the power.
Mhm.
Easier said than done. So much easier said than done. It takes
Yeah.
hard, hard work.
And that's,
But
and this is the thing. Your loss is new. And that's what I was even talking about, the stop method. It's not going to go away really quickly. Not to be Debbie Downer, but it takes a lot of work. Coming to a webinar, going to a group, having an individual session, going into a chat room, reading a book, doing the writing. The more you stick with it and keep at it, it will change. That's why Connie and I are here today. I mean, if we didn't take the time to do the work, I'd still be sitting in my apartment and Connie'd still be wondering what happened to Ruby. We have got to do the work. And I know a few of you have your hands up, and so I want to be sure to get to everybody. Claudia, you've had your hand up for a while, so I want to be sure to get to you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for hosting this support group. I know that we have spoken about guilt, and that's part of what is killing me inside. This was the last picture I took of my baby.
oh,
He passed 6 days ago,
oh,
and one of several things, he usually like to get into the trash, right? But he never got sick. 2 years ago, we don't know what happened to him, but he got extremely sick. He was in the hospital, and all the veterinarians told us to put him to sleep because he had kidney failure. I went to a lot of hospitals until I found the one, and I told them, do whatever it can to give him one more day with me. 2 years ago, and thank God he was saved. He recovered like it was a miracle. So on last Sunday, a week ago, he got into the trash. I took this picture and I screamed at him, and I locked him in the kitchen because to punish him for getting into the trash can. And I feel that the last day of life, I screamed at him. I locked him in the kitchen. In the last but it's just killing me because he was just looking into my eyes. I should have noticed anything. I just had give him more love and kisses. He didn't present any signs of intoxication from anything he got into the trash. He died on his bed. And that's another thing that I blame my husband. Like maybe when we woke up on Monday, he was already gone on his bed. I blame, like maybe he was panting or he couldn't breathe and we couldn't hear him. We couldn't help him. We didn't do anything to prevent him from passing. And this pain is so hard. Thank you for listening. I just want to know if he forgave me for screaming at him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You know what? And here again, right? It's hard to be human, isn't it? I mean, but the whole thing is, do we let, yeah, okay, you lost your temper. You just heard me with Jeter as he was carrying on when we were trying to do the webinar, right? Every time I work, he decides to act up like that, you know. I might say something I regret, but it doesn't change the love. I mean, you were just saying you saved his life 2 years ago. You know what? And this is what I want to say to everybody. Right now, it's so fresh. You said your loss was a week ago. Of course, it's gonna hurt like this. And we're sitting here trying to tell you, and you may say, yeah, but, right? Trust us, you know, take the time to do the work. Find a safe place like this webinar, like a group to join us and take the time to work through it. But I can guarantee, what was your dog's name?
Frankie Freud.
What is it? Frankie?
Frankie Freud. Uh-huh.
Oh.
Because he was my counselor, he was my therapist, my psychiatrist, and everything. He was my medication.
They're really good at that too. They're
Yeah.
really, really good at that. Yeah, they are. They'll listen for hours.
But you know, he to him that he probably forgot. This is what we're saying. They live in the moment. If you said, "Do you remember when I yelled at you?" He would probably say, "You yelled at me? What was that?" You know?
Yeah, yeah. And animals do not carry blame. That's an emotion. They do not carry that emotion. God, I wish we could, don't you wish we could be as good and kind and as they are? They don't carry I don't believe they carry guilt. Now, when my Jake stole a cube of butter off the kitchen counter, I thought I saw a little bit of a guilty look in his face, but I think he was more, satisfied that he managed to get away with it because, of course, they get away with everything. But they don't carry those negative emotions. They really don't. And if they carry anger, it's just over with so briefly, and guilt too. And the only time they're sad is when you're not with them.
Yeah.
And or when it's, 5 minutes past dinner time, as my pack is. But they don't carry those emotions. And that's when we tend to put our emotions onto them because we're feeling guilt. We're blaming ourselves. And no, no, all they know is love. And that's because you gave them that love. You gave them that. You gave him that love. Was he like a little beagle?
He was a lemon beagle, yes.
Oh,
Oh.
he's adorable. I'm
you.
so
He
sorry for
was.
your loss.
Thank you.
You'll get through this. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming your way.
Yeah.
Right now, it's a little tiny pinprick, but there is light. It does get better.
Amy, I see you have your hand up. Amy?
There she is.
One sec. I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. Also, my current cat is right here blocking everything. So, I guess, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm trying to gather myself. So basically, my issue is, so I lost Sweet Pea, my previous cat, like a couple years ago, and now I have a new cat named Sasha. And every time I do something for Sasha, I think, could I have done it better for Sweet Pea? And then I also saw recently, like Sweet Pea died of chronic kidney disease. And then I recently saw there's something on my vet's website, early detection tests. And I'm thinking, would that have helped Sweet Pea? And they have like new kidney diet food and everything. I'm like, and I think every time I do something, like say if I play with Sasha more or something, or I think I do, or I just feel guilty about, am I doing better for Sasha? And then I feel like, well, then I stop myself from doing better for Sasha. And then I'm like, well, that's not fair to Sasha. And I think what's been triggering my guilt recently is I have memories on my iPhone, and I got this memory mix. How they do the memory mix and the songs and everything. Well, I got these memories, and all of the pictures, Sweet Pea was at the end of her life looking really sad. And so I'll show you one of them. Like if I can you see this?
Yeah.
So
she looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Use the Siamese too?
Himalayan.
Himalayan. Oh,
So
beautiful.
that was at the end of her life. But then here is earlier. And look at that snuggly face. So I have to remember that she had really good times in her life, even toward the end. But it's just hard to remember in the moment, especially when you're getting those memories. Like why did they play all the pictures of her looking like really sick and really sad? I know that she wouldn't want me to feel guilty, but it's hard. I had a dream once where there was a doctor who was trying to treat her and wasn't able to save her. And then 5 minutes later, they said, oh, there was one more thing. And then he was like, but I forgot, and it's like, so I just like, I have the, but I've been doing better, but just every once in a while, you just think, could I have done something better? Like that, it's like one of those, what do you call it? Intrusive thoughts, So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, what a rude thing for your phone to do to you. I'm sorry I said that. Yeah. I just kind of pick some pictures and go, here you go, deal with it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it played a really sad version of You Are My Sunshine, and I just started bawling.
Gosh.
I would get a new phone.
Oh gosh. Well, and you know what? You are doing better for Sasha because we've learned, I have 8 urns of my past Huskies, and I've learned something all along the way. I've got 2 dogs now, 2 elderly dogs with kidney disease. And like you said, now they have kidney food. Now they have all of these things. Unfortunately, they haven't found anything for cancer. We're still waiting for that. But, as far as like kidney disease, you can't cure it, as so many of these illnesses. You can't cure it, but you can manage it, and you can still give them good quality of life. But these things are happening slowly in the veterinary field, and the information slowly getting out to us. And so, yeah, we do a little bit better for every pet that comes into our lives because of what we've learned. And so yeah, and Sasha deserves that. She deserves to benefit from your knowledge and from your heartbreak too, because she's her own little kitty. And and I just hope that she's warming your lap the same way.
Yeah, I think she's just sitting here.
Aww.
Yeah, I think Sweet Pea I really believe Sweet Pea sent Sasha to me, and I think she was returned 3 different times to 3 different shelters. She really needed a chance, and so I think she really she deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does. Oh.
You know what? Like Connie said, again, and this is about doing the best we have with what we doing the best with what we have at the time, right? If you had known something different, you had Sweet Pea for many years, never long enough, right? But many years, and it's like you would have done it, or again, we're human. Sometimes we're tired. Sometimes, one of the things I always do now is, and I'm not that kind of person, but I will tell you, I do this a lot with my friends and family. I say a lot of times before I leave, all right, I'll see you later. I love you. I lost my parents young. I didn't say that enough to them. And so that's something I do now. Again, does it make me a bad person for not telling my parents I loved them a lot? They knew I did, but we learn. We will, and we'll continue to learn.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy.
Sure, thank you.
I think we have Sean.
I think Andrea was before us.
Oh, okay. Andrea, you want to go ahead?
She's saying, go ahead, Sean.
Okay. Either one of you, whoever.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sean. I'm in no rush here.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and Sandra, Connie, thank you so much for putting this all together. I think it's helpful for us to hear a little bit more what some other folks are going through. So we lost Dexter just about a year ago here now. He was 14 after a quick diagnosis with lymphoma and about a month of chemo and these kind of treatments. And it just, I think for a lot of people who've gone through it, it happens, pretty much in the blink of an eye, right? And I think one of the sort of persisting challenges that we've continued to deal with here is we're trying to get through some of this grief. Probably more so for Natalia, my wife here, than me specifically. But I think we start to learn as we're going through and we're dealing with the vet and we're asking all these questions, and you always have this sort of nagging feeling that you're missing something or you haven't asked everything that you wanted to, or even in some ways we're thinking like, it's been so hard on him, it's been so hard on us. Maybe it would be better if he just, goes peacefully, or the next thing we know, about a week later, we're taking him in to get put down. The first loss for both of us, the first pet that we had ever had together. So still something that we're trying to work through here a little bit. And I guess the point that I'm trying to understand, and maybe you have some points you want to add to here, Nat, is I guess how how to come to terms with the fact that maybe there's something that either we missed or we didn't ask or we could have asked or we knew about and we didn't ask. And in the end, does it really make an impact in the treatment that could have happened, or in the last days that way? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The vet actually told us that it was time for him to go. So we went in the morning, and he had been in a very terrible state for a couple of days, and the vet finally said, it's time for him to go. He had been doing chemo, then he had to stop the chemo because he was too weak. He had anemia. I wish I would have tried something else, but it's so tiring for him, for us. It's just, so I don't know.
Yeah, we
So
all,
we're,
yeah,
we're, we're also in Italy, and I was following these groups on lymphoma. And of course, treatments are different in the US and Italy. And so I just wish there was something more that, our vets, we were actually going to a specific, how do you say, like a specialized center on oncology and treatments, but they did everything just so quickly and so mechanic, and there was no time to learn and keep up with everything. And he was feeling, Dexter was our cat. I don't know if you said that it was a cat. Yeah. And it's hard to treat a cat because they don't want to take medicines. We were forcing him. The last day he fell over, he had a bruise. It was so terrible that finally, when the vet said it's time, I almost felt relieved in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Yeah.
it's killing me because I didn't want him to go on suffering, and I didn't want us to go on suffering. but I wish he was here. And every day I wish he was here.
Yeah, we do. That's all we want is to have them back. That's all
Yeah.
we want. Yeah. And and thank you for saying that because um we feel you brought up um another way that we feel guilty. We feel guilty because we're relieved. Um,
Yeah.
we can feel guilty when we start to feel better. Oh gosh, I didn't cry today, and so I mean it just permeates everything when it comes to losing a pet. And so yeah, thank you for bringing that up because yeah, my husband and I lost our 17-year-old husky last summer, and we could have kept him alive. He would have been in pain. He was in pain, and but we could have kept him, limping along. But we chose to let him go, and we let him go on a good day. He ate a steak and two chicken thighs, and I guess we could only hope we could go out that way, right?
Right.
We're not afforded that gift of unless we're like in the electric chair or something, but we're not afforded a wonderful meal and a gentle way out surrounded by our loved ones. Often we go in, pain and agony. And it's such a gift to let them go, even though we're left behind and we're bearing their pain. And I'm just so sorry for your loss of Dexter. It's the worst. And yeah, those and you said if we could have done one thing, or if we would have known this, and it's that shoulda, woulda, coulda. Oh, if we could have done this, or if the vet could have done that, or oh, I would have done this. And it's the same as the if onlys. If only we would have done this. And we could just really circle the drain with those thoughts forever. And that's why, well, like Sandy said, it takes work to uncircle the drain and come out of that. And coming here, attending this is a good step. It's a good thing that you all are doing. It means that you recognize that guilt is not serving you. It can serve us for a little bit, especially if there's something that we need to learn from it, but it doesn't really serve us well. And so doing the work to work through that guilt is really important.
Yeah, and I'll just share too, and I just realized I had thought I put this in the presentation, but I didn't, right? Is this feeling of what we call euthanasia remorse, right? Which is it's like a lot of people when they euthanize their pet, they'll be like, "Oh, I killed my dog, I killed your cat." No, the cancer was killing them. We just decided to end the suffering. And I'll never forget, I have about 20% of my clients whose pets are still, they're at end of life. And I kind of help them through that process. And I had this one client who I was helping her, and she had this, what do you call it? Shetland sheepdog. Shetland sheepdog, is that it?
Yeah,
Um,
Shelton.
yeah, Sheltie, yeah. And the dog had cancer, and she called me up one day, and I had given her the name of this in-home euthanasia vet, and she called to let me know that she made the appointment. And she said, Sandy, I know I'm doing the right thing. And I know I'm going to end Lucky's suffering today, but today Lucky's suffering ends and mine begins. And that's it, right? The questioning, the what ifs. And I will tell you with Moz, and so Moz was a cat too. You probably saw him in the pictures there. He was 17, and I chose to do a lot of treatment because I had lost both parents in a short term before that. And I wasn't ready for another loss. And even with all of that, and it was very tough on him. I still lost him in a couple of months. And it's like now I have another boy here who has a different form of cancer that's much slower and stuff. And I have chosen not to do treatment and to give them the best quality. And I will tell you, you know, we talk about this, what we're saying, just because we're pet loss counselors. Connie talked me down off that edge one day because they did want to do more things for him. And I had to say, I don't, what's it going to matter? I mean, he's a senior too. What am I doing? I think the point of all of this, and this is what I realized with Moss, was my job was never to save him. I couldn't. I'm not a vet. I'm not God. I can't fix cancer.
The vets can't save him. How can you save him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
job was to love him. And I loved him perfectly. Nobody could have loved him more than I did. And that goes the same for Ruby and Jake and Sweet Pea and Freddie Freud and everybody that you've mentioned here. Nobody could have loved them more perfectly, you know, and Solomon, you know. We did our jobs, but it's still our suffering continues. Theirs isn't. They're okay. You know, Andrea, did you want to share?
Oh, yeah, we forgot Andrea.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Well, I also wanted to thank you for offering this. I know grief is different for everybody, but just knowing that people are out there who feel that way about their animals is helpful. And so, well, in my case, everything was actually perfect. I had my dog for 15 and a half years. And we had a wonderful, wonderful life together. Everything was perfect for this entire life. And I know that objectively I did everything for him. And I have so many people coming up to me and actually felt inspired by the relationship that we had. So it was really wonderful. And he had cancer at the end, but he lived with it for about 2 years. I did chemotherapy and I did all that. And I always promised him I would let him go when it's the time. And he made it very clear on the last day that he was ready to go. And I had a lot of time. I'm sorry.
Can you make sure if you're not, make sure you're on mute if you're, I'm sorry, go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, yeah. So, well, everything was just, I mean, as perfectly as it could have been, if you even can say that, you know. I had a very long time to say my goodbyes. I was able to tell him everything I wanted to tell him, to apologize, all this. I prepared for it. I had his vet coming over to the house. He passed away very peacefully. So everything was good, and I felt a strange peace the next day because I knew I did the right thing. But now it's been 6 months and it's actually now getting worse. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if now I'm thinking maybe he hang on for so long for me. He didn't show me for a while, and I knew he was feeling worse and worse towards the end. It started to affect his breathing. And I knew that once he couldn't breathe anymore, this is it. This is suffering. And I didn't want him to do that. And on the last day, it was clear. And, but so strangely, I am now starting to feel worse than I did in the beginning. And I did all these things. I read books, I wrote journals, I made a video, I have his ashes, I have these pictures, I memorialize him. I don't know why all of a sudden it's getting worse. And then yeah, I think my guilt is that I sometimes feel like maybe I did too much. Maybe he would have preferred not to get that chemotherapy because in the end it made him nauseous. So I think that's the part of the guilt that I feel, that maybe maybe I did a bit too much, but I constantly talked to his vet too. Like he was seen by vets every week or so, and I always asked him, "Is he still okay? Is he okay?" And I felt really bad for not knowing it for sure. I thought, why is he not showing me that he's ready to go? But then on the last day he did, and I was very, very thankful for that, because one of the gifts I wanted to give him was I did not want to take him to the hospital. We had a traumatic experience a couple months earlier, and I promised him I would never put him through that again. And I was happy I could do that. He died peacefully at home. I mean, being put to sleep. But so anyway, so I'm just trying to see why I am now feeling all these feelings after 6 months. It's getting worse instead of better now. So that's it. Thank you.
Connie, do you want to share first, or you want me to?
Yeah, well, and guilt isn't linear, or grief isn't linear, and
Mhm.
neither is guilt. It's not linear. We don't get a little bit better, a little bit better every single day. We get a little bit better, a little bit better. It's a mess. Grieving it's a mess, and it's not pretty. And sometimes and even though you knew he was sick and you knew you were going to lose him, the shock of the loss, and it's still a shock, um, that's that grief fog that Sandy was talking about. And that grief fog can last a while, and it's there for a purpose. It's kind of like cotton batting around our heads to kind of protect us from the reality of the loss. And when that wears off, and that can take some time, then the reality of the loss hits you, and you're just like, oh crap. And yeah, and so it can get worse before it gets better. I wish it wasn't that way. I really do. I wish that there was I wish that we had like a magic wand where you could just go
Yeah,
bink, everybody,
or
yeah, no,
like fairy dust that we can send
very
you.
yes, yes, something. But there's not, and that can happen. Anniversaries are hard. Maybe it's the time of year. Maybe it's the summer, and you used to do things together a lot in the summer, and those are bringing up memories. Birthdays are hard. Holidays are hard. Anything that's going to bring up a memory and just drive that point home that he's not with you anymore. And so, yeah, it can get harder before it gets better. And I'm just so sorry. Just that you gave him 2 more years is amazing. Because I was going to say, in my experience, the people that I've talked to, and in my own experience,
Yeah.
maybe 2 months. People might get 2 months or something. And
I'm
oh,
very thankful that
yeah,
I know very much that other people were not as lucky, and I I know 2 years, and he was doing really well until the end. So I think part of it why I'm also now feeling it just came to my mind. One of the reasons I think is why I feel so bad is because people around you expect you to now be over it.
oh,
They may not say it, but you can feel it. In the beginning, everybody cares and they ask. And then, of course, after a while, people expect you to have moved on. And
yeah,
I think that's part of it, what makes it a bit difficult and also helpful to see the people here. Because some people that spoke said, I forgot the lady's or the girl's name who said her dog passed away a year and a half ago. So, we know that it can take that long, but the general public, a lot of people just say, okay, well, it's been 6 months. You should be
right,
over.
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's interesting that you say that, because one of the questions that was sent in, and I'll read it here, is like, my loss has, and I put it here, hold on. So my loss for my beloved dog has been 6 months now. I travel a lot, and I've never had a chance to go to a group or to actually get some support, but I've done a little bit of memorialization, and I've read a couple of books. I feel like I feel guilt a little bit, but not a lot. But when I feel the most guilt is when people around me say, oh, you still haven't gotten another dog or a cat
Oh,
yet, or you're still feeling so sad. It's been 6 months. And absolutely. And again, you just heard somebody wrote that question in and sent it to us. Um, that's the part. Our society, and I don't want to get up on my soapbox, although I can really easily.
it
um,
might make you a little taller.
that's true. They just do grief really horribly. Human loss, but pet loss is especially disenfranchised. And it's hard because people don't get it. That's why, and I don't know where you are, and like I said, we will send out resources. Um, you may want to think about going to a group or two or attending one of our chats or something because it feels good. And I know Connie and I talk about this all the time. We have people that come to our group whose losses are 9 months, a year and a half, and they don't come all the time like they did in the beginning, but they come because they need a place to be where they know others get it. And that's what these groups provide, kind of like you're all saying we're doing right here. And like Connie said, I mean, we do, and we'll be doing it again this year too. We do a coping of the holidays webinar. And because it's the first, right? It could be a change of the season. I hear that a lot. My dog or cat love to sit outside and it's getting warmer and this is the first summer where they can't, or an anniversary or a birthday. Anything could trigger it. But again, that's grief.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
never.
one of my participants in my group, and she's been coming every week. She's got two cats over, 2 years' time, and she goes in a room and she said once, my roommates just go, "Why do you go there every week? It just makes you sad." And, and she says, "I go there to be sad. I go there so I can speak their names and tell their stories." And that's why the groups are so important too, because we believe their names need to be spoken and their stories need to be told because they were important. They were important to you. They were the love of your lives, and their names need to be spoken. They need to be honored, and their stories need to be shared. And you're right, Andrea. After a while, it's like, gee, why are you still crying? You don't tell somebody who lost their husband, oh, you could go out and get another husband, and so it's like that. Sandy mentioned disenfranchised grief. That's what this is. And not everybody understands, but I'll guarantee you the people who come to these groups and come to chat rooms and that type of thing, they understand because they're in your shoes. And it really helps to talk about them. And that's the other thing. They don't want to hear the stories of of,
Right.
of your dog.
Right.
But you need to tell those stories. You need to
And I
talk.
have been, yeah, I talk every day. And because I'm almost being a little stubborn now, because I'm almost like, well, you're gonna listen to my story about Nico today. And I make it an hour story, but I just throw in little things like, oh yeah, I used to come to this coffee shop with Nico, because there's not a place I can go to where he wasn't with me. We were together 24/7. So that's what makes it really hard too.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I forced it on people sometimes because I'm also scared of forgetting him. Not that I ever would, but I feel like I need to talk about him. I don't want to forget him. I don't want to forget the feelings that I had for him. So
And that's where writing can be so helpful too.
Yeah.
Writing a memory list where you write down all the memories you can remember so you don't forget.
yeah, thank you so much.
There's another book by Dr. Wolfelt, and like Sandy said, most of his writings are for human loss, but I think this is good for anything, and I think everybody should be required to read it. And it's called "Stay for the Cup of Coffee," and it is just exactly what you were talking about, Andrea. Is like right after a loss, and it happens with human loss too. Everybody's there, oh, and they're checking on you and calling you and texting you, and then that just kind of just goes, you don't even really notice it, just kind of goes away. But your grief didn't go away. The guilt, it hasn't gone away. And we still need to talk. And so it essentially was, stay for the cup of coffee and just listen, because that's all we really need is someone to listen to the stories, listen to the memories, and just be there and have that cup of coffee with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, both of you.
So it looks like everybody's had a chance to share now.
Can I make a quick comment really quick?
Okay, sure.
Just really, really quick. Yeah, so I started writing this book for my dog Solomon. It's called The Book of Solomon, a love story. And I tell you, between the groups and the writing, anybody who hasn't done the groups, this does give you a place to talk about it. And I stopped talking to people that they really can't appreciate where I'm at, because that's just painful too. So these groups have been a lifesaver. I cannot say enough about them. If you're not in one, please join, because what you get is just love, understanding, and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Okay, so it
Surround
looks
yourself with those people who love and understand you. And
definitely. So I'm glad you all could be here. I'm glad we have this time. It kind of went how I wanted it to go, where I didn't want to make the webinar part too long, just to give you some basic information, but to provide you a chance. And I hope, like we just said, you saw that other people get it. And in understanding other people get it and that you're not alone, like kind of like Karen said with the groups, that or the chat rooms, that's how the healing begins to happen. So we will be sending you out the information. I'm going to see today is Sunday. By Thursday, definitely. For those of you who can't attend, you'll get a recording, and you all will get the recording as well, along with some resources and offer of support. Okay? Thank you for honoring yourselves and honoring your pets, and just know that we're here to support you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
bye.
Connie, thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Connie. Thank you, Sandy.
Take good
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
You know how to find us.
Yeah. Thanks.